Emma, good morning. How bad is it currently? I mean, what are you picking up?
Well, we deal with this literally every single day, and people phone us in a panic to say that they've met somebody online, usually on Tinder or Grindr, sometimes even on platforms like LinkedIn, and said that they've started this online relationship, they really trusted the person, sometimes they've spoken to them for weeks at a time, and then they have sent maybe private sexual content, and that person turns around and says, if you don't pay me 5,000 Rand to my e-wallet, then I'm going to put this online, or I'm going to send it to your boss, or to your grandmother, or to your 12-year-old son who I'm following on Instagram, and they send pictures of how they've got contacts from your friend list on social media, and people panic and pay. And, I think that why I've seen such a big spike in the last week of this kind of conduct is because we are now doing everything online. And when people are at home and they are bored and they're in lockdown, I think we're going to see more and more of this kind of content. So this is really just a reminder to everyone to not send naked pictures to people who you don't know.
Yeah, and I'm surprised people are still doing that. I mean, you meet somebody virtually, you don't even know them, and you start sharing stuff. But into the lockdown, people now will be at distance from each other, boyfriend and girlfriend, even relationships that currently exist. The best advice is don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. So I've got some tips. So if you're under the age of 18, then don't do it because it's a criminal offense. We deal with it as the creation and distribution of child pornography. But if you're 18, Dan, the truth is that that's what people are doing. And I know I sound like a killjoy when I say don't do it. The problem is that prevention is better than cure. But where people can't resist the temptation to get involved in sexting, to take videos, to take photos of themselves in private sexual moments, these are the rules. The first one is to make sure that you can't be identified from the content. So by that, I mean make sure your face and your genitals are not in the same picture. I know it sounds absurd, but it's very, very good advice. And when I say your face, I mean any tattoos, birthmarks, anything identifying. The second thing is to make sure that the person you're sending that content to wants to receive it. If you start sending this naked content to your colleagues, then that will constitute sexual harassment and you will be disciplined, probably fired. The third thing is to make sure you're sending it to the right person and not the wrong WhatsApp group. Now, if you in isolation have started drinking more and started sending inappropriate messages at night because you feel like there's not much else to do, then please be very careful. If you get involved in this kind of content and this kind of conduct when you're drunk, you're going to make mistakes. So make sure you're sending it to the right person and not the wrong WhatsApp group. And then the last thing is, as we've already said, make sure you know the person you're sending that content to, because if you have just met this person virtually, then the truth is they probably are part of this extortion ring which is operating in South Africa, and they're making a fortune. So please, and if you find yourself in trouble, if you are being extorted, then go have a look at the Sextortion Scam blog on my website, the Digital Law Company, and I'll give you step-by-step instructions there about what to do.
Saying you know somebody, that will presume that you trust them.
Yeah. So this is the thing, I've had clients who phoned me and they said that they've spoken to this person all day, every day for literally 8 months. And then they've sent this content and that person has turned out not to be who they say they are. So if you think you're being catfished, which is what we call it when somebody pretends to be somebody that they're not to start an online relationship with you, then try and FaceTime them or Skype them or WhatsApp video call them as early as possible. Get them on camera. Make sure that they are who they say they are. If it feels a bit too good to be true, if this super beautiful person is suddenly super interested in you and the super beautiful people are not normally that interested in you, then do a bit of research. Maybe do a reverse Google image search of the person. There's a great website called Tin Eye, and we talked about it actually on the show last week where we were talking about detecting fake news. We also use those sort of reverse image searches to check that people are who they say they are. So I take a profile picture, so I'm speaking to Dan, and I take his profile picture, and instead of searching the internet using words, using his name, then I search using his face. And then everywhere where that picture appears will come up. So if they have just stolen that picture from somebody else's social media, then you will be able to work it out quite quickly. So do a reverse Google image search or use this website called Tin Eye and FaceTime the person. Those are the two best pieces of advice, I think. And be skeptical. We said last week when we were talking about fake news in this pandemic that you should presume everything you read is false until proven otherwise. I think the same rule applies with people that you're meeting online. Presume they're dodgy until you've proven that they are actually a real person.
That's very good advice. Now, you've mentioned fake news. we are going to a lockdown. There's going to be a lot of sharing of stuff. And my uncle sent me this. My cousin sent me that. Emma, my friend, sent me this. Dan, my uncle, sent me this. We really need to be mindful of what we're going to be sharing. I just want that as a reminder, Emma.
Yeah, so I think the voice note it typically starts, my friend says this, keep it on the down low. I mean, I think we really are living in not just the COVID pandemic, but in a fake news pandemic too. And it's such a serious issue, Dan, that they've actually included it in the regulations that were released last week. And that is, it is now a criminal offense that you can be imprisoned for 6 months if you share a statement which is not true with the intention to deceive. Now, hopefully people who are sharing those fake voice notes on these WhatsApp groups are not intending to deceive people. But the truth is that we've got to think about dolus eventualis, which is that even if you have a reckless disregard for the truth, you could be hit by this. You know, if you receive something and you're sharing it without actually interrogating that content, without asking yourself, is this true? Are the real news websites running this story? And you just share that content. You know, Dan, I've seen the worst stuff. I've seen stuff about how there are vaccines. I've seen stuff about how only white people can get it. I've seen people falsely accused of having it. I've seen people saying that government is using faulty tests. I've seen all sorts of really harmful content. You have to interrogate information before you share it. It's your duty as a social media user. Presume everything you read is not true until you've gone and investigated it and confirmed that it is true. And if you're sharing something which you believe is for the social good and you're not sure about the source, then put in there a little disclaimer saying, I don't know whether this is true, but this seems like pretty good advice. We've really got to nip this fake news in the bud, because these times are scary enough, even with the reliable news.
Thank you very much, Emma Sedler, digital law expert.